Hi, how are y'all doing? It is Thursday, October 2nd, almost 1 p.m. as of recording this video. And thanks to a suggestion from one of my wonderful subscribers, I'm going to once again reveal my stump. Stumpy's making a comeback. I've done this once before, and I haven't done it since because it's not something I think about, and it is kind of sort of a sore spot for me. It has been very hard for me to adjust to this. I was once very physical, very active, and I still can be, but there are some things that I'm never going to be able to do again. At least nowhere near to the extent of what I could do before, or as easily. I can do anything if I work at it hard enough, but the drive just isn't there, really. But it has been very difficult to adjust to this, and the difficulties are still there, and they make life challenging, and to be honest, I just don't like even looking at it. It is a symbol to me of how bad things got, how far I have fallen from where I once was. It is a symbol to me of my own failures and ineptitudes. It is a constant reminder that sometimes your body can be your absolute worst enemy. So no, I don't like looking at it. I try not to think about it. I care for it, of course. I change the bandage every day. I have to, now that I have wounds on it again. But once I put the shoe on, it goes away. And that's how I constantly try to look at it, because it is a source of depression and anger that I constantly have to wrestle with. So I'm going to take off my shoe and sock from my left foot, which is still intact, so I can show y'all a comparison side by side. There's the left foot, whole, complete, still very foot-like. And now this one. So you can see a comparison of the feet, and see we're heel to heel there, and the bandage is still wrapped around it, of course. When I start taking the bandage off, if that sort of thing bothers you, you can turn away, and I'll let you all know when the camera is no longer pointed at it. I won't be able to rebandage it holding my phone. So, okay, bandage is coming off. If you're squeamish about this sort of stuff, you can look away now and just listen. And there it is. The wound, I've got, God, it's still kind of stuck. I've got really two. There's one, the worst one is right here where my index finger is. I'm not going to get down on it and show it. It is closing up, but it's still draining, and doesn't feel all that good. And then there's one over here that I don't think it's so much a wound as just the upper layers of tissue, skin, have died around it. It's not like a hole, but it does weep as well. But yeah, there it is, heel to heel. So you can see I've lost from just behind the ball of my foot all the way across. Started out with one toe. It was the second toe on the right foot that they said right from the beginning absolutely had to go. And then during my attempted recovery from that, the big toe and the third toe on the right foot turned black, and those had to go. And for a while I just had the fourth and fifth toe on my right foot, and I would try to get my spirits up in the hospital by joking how I was going to confuse the hell out of people on the beach when I was out there walking around. They'd think there's some sort of giant bug on the loose. I told Joey he could start calling me Daddy Bugfoot. But because the treatment plan of the podiatrist that I was seeing never changed, I would go to his office every week. He would take a scalpel and he would go way beyond debriding it. He would hack into my foot like he was mad at it. I mean, he would cut, 2 inches deep, like back to where it is now almost. And it seemed to me he was cutting in way too deep, and to the point where I could feel it, and I have pretty bad neuropathy. So I am hiding away my foot now. You can no longer see the stump if you want to turn back. No, I apologize for that piece of missing trim on my door frame. The house has been a work in progress since we moved in, and after the divorce, it became less of a work in progress. And now I do try to fix things. That is actually on my list of things to try to get fixed. I just need to replace that one vertical piece there, but I just haven't got around to it. Nobody sees it but me and Joey whenever he comes running in here. Of course now y'all are gonna see it, but who cares? I don't. But he would hack into it mercilessly, and I would bleed like hell for the next 3 days. I would be on like med watch back at Bayview, the rehab facility, where they were constantly ready to send me back to the ER. And he would lather it in Meta Honey, which is really good stuff, but because of the amount of bleeding I did, it wouldn't stay on very much, and it had to be cleaned up and rebandaged. It would come off with new bandages and all the blood, and my foot just would not heal. And he would do the same damn thing every week. And that is what led to me having to have the, I was about to show it again. That is what led to me having to have the transmetatarsal amputation done, because I think he was more responsible than anything else for ruining the ball of my foot, which if I still had the ball of my foot, it would be way easier for me to walk and balance than it is now. This is actually quite hard to walk on, especially for me, because I have centered my weight and balanced myself on the balls of my feet my entire life. And now I can't do that. And it makes life very difficult. I am 10 minutes plus in, so this video will likely actually have a part 2 because there's something else I want to talk about. So I do apologize, another episodic video, but this will only be 2 parts. So I'm gonna just keep going and let it do its thing. It's very difficult for me to walk and function on this because I constantly want to put the weight on the balls of my feet, and my doctors are constantly saying, you know, you need to try to center your weight on your heel. And that's much easier said than done, especially when you have consciously centered your weight and balanced on the balls of your feet for 40 years. It was in the beginning. Oh, hold on, I'm going 11 minutes in. New things are happening. Okay, well, we'll roll with it. It's primarily due to martial arts, like I said. Traditional Chinese wushu has been in my family for a little while, and my dad taught me from the time I could walk on up, just like my grandpa did for him. And in traditional martial arts, at least, you center your balance and your weight on the balls of your feet because it gives you more control. It increases your balance rather than trying to balance your weight over your heel, because when you're doing things like you know, kicking, especially high kicking, if your weight is centered right directly on top of your heel, it's very easy for you to topple over or be knocked over. And it also makes you more fluid and agile when you keep the weight on the balls of your feet. Whereas on the heel, you're less agile, you're less mobile, at least in terms of more complex traditional martial arts that a lot of people that don't have any experience with that might not understand. But it has been extremely difficult for me to walk on the ball or on the heel of my right foot. It has to be a constant, conscious effort. If I stop thinking about it, I will immediately start trying to put my weight on, you know, sorry, I flashed it, on the end of my foot, and that is what has resulted in the wounds that I have now, because I'm constantly on it, and I'm constantly putting the weight on the end of my foot. There are special shoes that are designed to keep the weight off the end of your foot. The one that mainly comes to mind is a wedge shoe, which purposely, you know, fingers or your toes, it cants your foot up like this, so that your toes or you know, whatever's down there at the end, the weight is off of it. It's elevated a little bit. I've tried one of those, but it causes an awful lot of pain to my ankle, and it ends up going up my leg, and after about an hour, it is quite difficult even to just walk around, and it hinders me too much from being able to do, you know, all the things that I need to be able to do. So I can't wear it. Now that my insurance has kicked back in, and yes, my insurance is now once again fully active. So I am back to where I was before my birthday. small favors. I'm going to now see if I can get a pair of the Specialized shoes. A pair that's actually made for me. There's a company out of Orlando that does it, that my podiatrist is contracted with, and they come up here to his office in St. Augustine once a month to take measurements for people that need custom shoes, and they'll make them and then they'll ship them to my door. Hopefully that will be a fix to this ongoing problem that I am apparently going to have of creating new injuries from walking on a structure that wasn't really meant to have a lot of force put down on it directly. You know, it's the severed ends of my metatarsal bones. The pressure that I'm putting on them from the inside is what's creating these ulcers. So hopefully I can get a pair of shoes that I can walk normally on, or at least as normal as I'm able, and not have to deal with these wounds anymore. I'm hoping. Knock on wood. This is really weird. We're 16 minutes, almost 17 minutes deep, and it hasn't cut off. I'm not knocking it, you know. Let's have it. So yeah, that is the stump. I am not physically whole. I am minorly physically handicapped. I'm sure certain people like Daydream and Dumbass will say that that is no excuse, and that I should be able to get out there and work right now and do all the things and not have to ask people for financial help. And if I didn't have, you know, more than half a dozen, close to a dozen other medical conditions, issues that contribute to the extreme difficulty I have getting out there and getting a job right now, I would agree with him. I'm sure Daydream and Dumbass would come back with something like, well, there's people out there with no legs at all and they go out and work. That is true. I, in fact, have encountered a gentleman that had both of his legs amputated, and he worked as a door greeter at Walmart. Which is something that I could do probably now. If I could drive. But because I'm young and I'm not so heavily handicapped, they probably would not hire me just to do things like that. And going beyond, I could do that, but I would also have other responsibilities. And going beyond doing stuff like that right now would be iffy and difficult on a daily basis. But I cannot drive currently because of my eyes. And Daydream and Dumbass said that I could take the bus. I could make it happen somehow. That again is true. Would be true if I lived in a large city where, public transportation was no more than a block away at the most, and there was a vast public transportation network that you could depend on, and you could live your whole life without ever having to get behind the wheel of a vehicle. But I do not live in a city like that. St. Augustine is quite a small town by city standards. And I do not even live anywhere near the city center. I live 5-6 miles south of town proper. And the closest bus stop to me for public transportation is almost 2 miles away. In a rebuttal to him, I said 5, and I exaggerated that. I do apologize. I was angry and irritated with him. So when I'm wrong, I do get on here and admit it. It's not 5 miles away. It's closer to 2. But that is still way beyond my reach. I can get to and from the bus stop, which is, I would roughly estimate 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet. And after I make that trip, I'm done. I'm dusted. I'm spent. I've got to sit down for a couple of hours at least. Walking to the closest public transportation bus stop is not an option. And I qualify for assistance with transportation for medical appointments. But it's like I have I think 20 free transports in a month. I might be able to get transportation assistance for work, but I think, if I remember correctly what they said, I would still have to contribute something for fuel. Which, every day would start to add up. And if my eyes were clear, I could start doing something like that if I really had to. But once my eyes were clear and I could drive, I wouldn't need transportation assistance. So I'm in a stuck situation. In reference to the guy working with no legs, yeah, there are people that can do that. But another caveat is, not only do those people generally have way more personal support in terms of family members and friends, but they also have a much greater support network in terms of services and benefits, because they are so heavily handicapped. I do not have all of that. And again, if it was just my foot, I'd go work a regular job, no problem. But it's not just my foot. It's my eyes. It's my heart, which is not great. It's in bad shape, but it's better than it was back when my ex-wife left me. And it can be made better. We're working towards that now, but is the cancer coming back? We don't know. I have to try to get back in with that doctor, and then I've got to. There are so many things I have to do and figure out. If the cancer's coming back, I'm going to be well and truly foobarred in terms of going back to work, I think, because, I don't even know what they're going to do to treat it. The oncologist says that, with everything I've been through already and the damage that I've received to my heart, he wouldn't want to do chemotherapy anyway. Are chemo pills an option? I don't know. How will that affect my heart? I don't know. We haven't gone into the different treatment options because we still don't know if I need treatment. There's, a bunch of other medical issues that I'm having to deal with that I don't even talk about on here because they're not really necessary to the main problems that I have, but they are factors. So that's that. That's how it is, you know. I desperately want to go back to work, and I am going to go back to work. But I've got to ensure that when I do, it's not going to be more of a hindrance than it will be not. Because what Daydream and Dumbass apparently also doesn't realize is I can only work so many hours, and I can only make so much money extra along with my SSI benefits, SSDI benefits, and not lose them. And I'm only allowed to make so much money regardless, SSDI or not, you know, extra money coming in. I'm only allowed to make so much money regardless before I lose my Medicaid and thereby lose my dual complete, thereby ending up in the exact same insurance debacle that I was just in over the last 3+ months. And because of all the medical problems I have, that is absolutely no benefit to me, because I won't make anywhere near enough money extra to replace the